At $329 is the Feiyu Pocket 3 kit. Really? A DJI Osmo Pocket 3 that's $200 cheaper? I've spent some serious time with both of these, and they do share a lot of similarities. But for anyone considering the Feiyu Pocket 3, it probably at first glance looks like a super tempting offer for its price and its quick magnetic mount. But probably doesn't come as a surprise. It's got a lot of trade-offs that you should consider. So between these two, which one should you go for? Let's get into it. Now, because of those confusing names, I'm gonna refer to the Feiyu as the Pocket 3 and the DJI as the Osmo Pocket 3. Here's where the Pocket 3 starts to look like a really good deal and, if you will, a steal. The camera alone, as this actually detaches, is only $249, and that's less than half the price of the Osmo Pocket 3. But as I'll get into, there's a good reason for that lower price. The Pocket 3's design is a throwback to the Feiyu Pocket 2S, which introduced this first detachable camera concept. The 2S was held back by a tethered cable, which limited its flexibility in its use because you're tethered. But with the Feiyu Pocket 3, they finally cut the cord, but it doesn't fix all of those limitations. The Osmo Pocket 3, on the other hand, will set you back $519, or if you go all out like I did with the Creator Combo that costs $669 and includes a bunch of accessories, that's about $200 to $340 more than the Feiyu Pocket 3. Is it that much better? I've tested and used plenty of Feiyutech's DSLR gimbals, and they're a great budget alternative to the DJI Ronin, but this is my first time actually trying the Pocket series out. And honestly, my first impressions here were a bit of a mixed bag. Unboxing the Pocket 3, I immediately noticed its cheaper plastic build both on the camera itself and on the controller. It's not a deal breaker, but it does remind you of the cost-cutting measures that were made to get to this price point. The buttons lack satisfying clickiness both on the controller and the gimbal. And don't get me started on its gimbal cover. It's big, it's bulky, and it takes away from an otherwise really compact setup. The other interesting thing is when attached, the center of mass, because it's so forward, it just tips over. You know, there's something to be appreciated about having a gimbal camera combo that, even without its foot, just sits down and stays upright. The Feiyu Pocket series has always been in the shadow of the Osmo Pocket lineup, but the Pocket 3 is trying to break the mold by coming up with this radical new design. It's got that detachable cordless gimbal camera, and it's a design you're either going to love for its flexibility or hate for the added parts and setup. And because of this unique detachable design, I feel like the Pocket 3 is a mix between obviously the Osmo Pocket 3, but also the Insta360 Go 3S, which at its core is just a camera with very few buttons and interfaces, and its main station, which has the screen and all the other controls that you would need. The Osmo Pocket 3 with its 1-inch CMOS sensor can shoot up to 4K 120 frames per second. Meanwhile, the Pocket 3 can shoot up to 4K 60 frames per second. But just as with the Insta360 Go 3S, it features a magnetic design that basically allows you to mount this anywhere. Feiyutech claims that this is the world's first detachable cordless gimbal camera. And that's a mouthful, but what does that really mean for you? The camera basically is just this lens and gimbal now, with the handle and display and controls offered as a separate purchase. Now, even though the Pocket 3's base is a lot chunkier, you can see overall it does have a much smaller footprint without its camera remote attached. The other benefit is that its bottom is also magnetic. And so this smaller magnetized setup opens you up to a lot of creative possibilities, whether you want to stick it on an elevator door, overhead pipes, street signs, you name it. But that detachable design also makes the Pocket 3 more, in my opinion, action ready because of how easily you can attach it to not only yourself, cars, pets, or with its IPX8 dive waterproof case, it can even be used underwater. But one of the biggest questions for me is how usable is the Pocket 3 on its own without the remote controller? The camera body has basic controls for power, shooting modes, and a tiny little black screen here for you to check out what mode you're in and if you're recording. But what do you do when you want to set up your framing or change some of your advanced video settings? The Pocket 3 doesn't come with this in the box, it's an optional purchase, so for users who don't want to use this, you are going to need to rely on your smartphone. It's not a huge complication, but just keep that in mind. This little screen isn't going to help you for that much. That said, even though their smartphone app does work relatively well as far as getting a live view and quickly changing some of your manual settings, it does have some limitations like setting manual white balance. And because of that, I do think a lot of people are actually gonna want to use the remote controller here just because it's a little bit quicker to connect. You don't have to drain your phone's battery, and it feels like a more, I don't know, connected product like this. So the $329 kit is what most people are probably gonna wanna get as opposed to buying this separately. You do actually save a little bit of money by buying both together with that kit as opposed to buying them on their own. The remote adds some functionality, including the joystick, which I think you kind of need on, the camera itself. A zoom slider, which I think is pretty dumb. No one's going to be digitally zooming on this. And a 1.3-inch touchscreen, which next to the Osmo Pocket 3's 2-inch rotatable screen feels very underwhelming, to say the least. I think all those quirks that I mentioned so far are fairly forgivable, but how does it actually perform, especially side by side with the Pocket 3? Let's start with the field of view. The Pocket 3 gives you a wider 130-degree field of view compared to the Osmo Pocket 3's 93-degree field of view. This extra width is great for capturing more in your shot, and it makes taking, for example, selfies or videos, vlogging, feel less cramped. On the DJI, you might need to use its wide-angle filter to achieve a similar look. The Osmo Pocket 3's wide-angle field of view increases the field of view to 110 degrees, which is still less than on the Pocket 3. In terms of video quality itself, the Pocket 3 shoots 8-bit video at 120 megabits per second, whereas the Osmo Pocket 3 offers 10-bit at 130. That extra video information allows the Osmo Pocket 3 to capture better dynamic range, so whether it's the details in the skies or dark shadows, it's not lost, it's not blown out. A couple differences in the video with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. We have the depth of field. So again, it's giving me that subject separation where the background looks a little bit more blurred out, whereas this, again, very similar to more of like a phone where everything is in focus. Not bad, but when you want to take your footage to the next level, I think this is a really easy way to do it in a small package with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, whereas the Feiyu Tech, again, is basically cell phone footage that is smoother. That's one of the biggest advantages with the Osmo Pocket 3. It gives you shots that look somewhat similar to DSLRs or at least small pocket cameras. This, on the other hand, has a fixed focus, so it can't give you that depth of field as you move closer or further away from your subjects. But this is one of the biggest reasons I love the Osmo Pocket 3 is because how I can seamlessly cut between my footage, the Sony a7S III, which we're shooting on now, and this. In many ways, I'm actually using this more often, especially on the go, because I'm getting those really nice vlogging shots. The Pocket 3's modular and smaller design also sacrifices battery life. The DJI Osmo Pocket 3 can be charged 80% in just 16 minutes, and that gives you up to 2 hours of shooting. When fully charged, you can record up to 160 minutes of 4K 60 frames per second footage, or 166 minutes of 1080p 24 frames per second. The Pocket 3 states that you only get 60 minutes at 1080p 30 frames per second, and with its controller installed, that goes up to 160 minutes, but again, that's at 1080p 30 frames per second, not 4K 60. That's not even mentioning the fact that DJI also offers some cool accessories like its battery handle, which nearly doubles its battery life. Because of that, the Osmo Pocket 3 is one of the longest lasting cameras for its size. I mean, I can use this all day, like 4 hours, and I don't even have to worry about charging this. Listen for how each of them sounds. I think the DJI mic sounds a little bit richer. It sounds like I'm a little bit closer, and overall, I think it sounds better. Whereas with the Feiyu Tech, it sounds, I don't know, a little bit further away, a little bit more muffled. But DJI also has another ace up its sleeve, and that's with the wireless mic 2. It supports connecting to via Bluetooth, and they sync automatically when turned on. You couldn't really ask for a better setup, and again, this combo is what I use almost every day when I'm filming on the go, whether it's filming myself or interviews. Yes, that is another pricey investment, but that's exactly what the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 combo can be considered. An investment, a tool I can rely on, a tool I use almost every day. So yeah, the Pocket 3 turned out to be much more interesting than I originally thought. It makes some sacrifices in terms of performance, especially stacked up next to the Osmo Pocket 3, but you got to. They're both Pocket 3s. On the flip side though, it is better suited for a wider range of setups, I think, especially more quick setups, thanks to its smaller and magnetic design, and of course for support for accessories like the diving case. It's like a hybrid between the Osmo Pocket 3 and the Insta360 Go 3S, giving you a lot of flexibility for creative shots quickly, in exchange for more versatility as an all-in-one camera that combines the elements of both the Osmo Pocket 3 and the Go 3S. And you also want to save some money while you're at it, then the Pocket 3 is definitely worth considering. Just keep in mind a number of those quirks that we mentioned. So what do you think? For more cool tech, you can find us everywhere at Tom's Guide, and you can follow me to see what I'm reviewing next. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.